Hi, good evening. Welcome to my daily live session on diverse topics, especially the tools and methods for creating world class companies and exceptional leaders. And today I will be speaking about swim lane diagram. And before I get into that, from today onwards, I'll give a very brief recap of yesterday and then also talk about what I'm going to be talking tomorrow. So that's something which will be new. So let us now start off directly with what we did yesterday. Yesterday, I spoke about the task expected due date and how is it important, how it is important to projects. And I'm sure you would have used that in some way or the other yesterday. And in case you got any information to share, please do that by writing to me. You can reach me at dinakar@samutana.com. And I'll be more than happy to interact with you and also learn from you more than anything. And then your experiences would be definitely helpful and useful for me to learn and improve my expertise. So thanks a lot for that. Now let us talk about what we are going to be doing today. Today's activity would be to talk about the swim lane diagram. So once I go to the swim lane diagram, let me now change the mode so that you can see the swim lane diagram a little bigger. It is again some improvement which I did based on some feedback which I received. So now let's start talking about swim lane diagram. Where is it that you use this particular methodology, this particular tool? As you can see, it has multiple lanes, which you can call as a swim lane or the lane in which the participants are swimming. And each lane in this case would uh, 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 be a particular function, particular department in a company. And why do you use the swim lane diagram? Before I get into what and how to do the swim lane diagram, swim lane diagram is something which can be used for mapping a business process, not a manufacturing process, a business process end to end, which basically goes through multiple departments. This is very, very, what should I say, ideal to be doing in a workshop because people from multiple departments can sit together. And after that, you start talking about various steps. Each column would be a step, and each row would be a department which is responsible for that particular step. So in this case, if you see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps which have been depicted in the sketch on the screen, which are the 5 vertical columns, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 departments. And each line, each lane, which is a swim lane, is a department. And from one department, let us say department number 2, the job started. The gray box indicates that they are the ones who are taking the lead, and the others also could be working in that particular step. Step is either a task or a set of tasks which are to be performed by that particular for that particular process flow. This again is, I said, like I said, business process flow for indirect areas. So the first one would be the second department, the second function would start. Let us say they kick it off, and after that, it goes to that third function. And that is what you see visibly here. So that here with this tool, you can clearly identify how the baton is being passed in the relay race of business. Relay race of business where you are trying to really pass on from one department and one function to another. And that is very clearly seen here. That is number one. Number two, you also see when you are trying to pass the baton, who else is involved in that particular step. It's possible that some other department also is involved in doing that step, while the third department, third team, third function, third role in an organization is taking the lead. The fifth role also is involved in performing that function. Then once the third role has completed their job, it goes to the next step, which is the third column which you see. In this case, the first function is going to be taking the lead. And then there are multiple people participating in that particular step, which would be the second function, third function, and the fifth function. They are the departments or functions or roles who would be participating in that step. They need to contribute something. And once the step is completed by the department number 1 or function number 1 or role number 1, it then goes on to the next step. In this case, this baton is picked up by the step function number 4. Function number 4 picked up the baton, and then they start running in the relay race. And there they work on their own. They don't need any support or help from any other department. And once they have done that, they go to the next step. The next step is they hand over the baton to the function number 5. Function number 5 takes over, and then they complete the race. That is basically depicted in this particular sketch. Just to summarize once again, the first person in the relay race is the department number 2, the second is the department number 3, and the third is department number 1, and the fourth is department number 4, and the fifth is department number 5. So this basically can give you a very clear visibility as to who is doing what and how is the process flowing in the organization. And this tool is something phenomenal, really phenomenal, when you are looking at trying to reduce the waste and the non-value added activities in a indirect value stream. This is nothing other than a value stream. It's a value stream depicted in the form of a swim lane, and I've used it multiple times with multiple clients. And the visibility is something really fantastic. Once you look at this on a board, normally I would use pin boards to do such a diagram, where people write down the steps, and after that we keep putting on the board. I've also done it with whiteboard, where the number of steps involved was less and the functions involved was less. And when you write this, it becomes extremely clear for, let us say, the function number 2 needing to give the baton to function number 3. Then it is easy for function number 2 to understand what the requirements and expectations are from function number 3, so that function number 2 can prepare their task in such a way that function number 3 can pick it up in a right way. Like in a relay race, ideally what should be happening is function number 3 should be ready to receive the task or the process which is being worked upon from function number 2 without any delay. They should be picking up, like in the case of a relay race. The one who is picking up the baton doesn't keep waiting there, and the one who is handing over the baton did not go to the, let us say, if it's a 4 into 100 meter relay, 100 meters would be the length that each one would, distance that each one would run. And it's not possible that the runner 1 would run for 100 meters and after that waits there for the runner 2 to pick up the baton. Then you obviously lose the race. There is no doubt at all on that. And similarly, it is not possible that runner number 1 went there and he is already ready to give the baton. He gave the baton, but runner number 2 was somewhere not there. So therefore, he left the baton there and then came back to the restroom, because he expected runner number 2 to pick up the baton, which again doesn't happen in the relay race. Relay race, runner number 2 comes out of the track and field playground only after handing over the baton to runner number 2, and runner number 2 would have picked it up without any problem. Whereas in business, it doesn't happen like that. For example, runner number 2, in this case, function number 1, for example, or function number 1 would complete his job, and after that hand it over in the out tray, for example. And there is somebody else who comes and picks it up and gives it to the next department in the in tray of that department. Classically, if you look at the conventional way of working with the documents, or if it is something which is electronically done, then function number 2 would complete the task and after that shoot out an email. And mind you, it is really crazy. These guys will write copy to everybody in the organization to say that now I'm given it to function number 3. And function number 3, which is the second player in the swim lane diagram which you see here, would possibly see the email only after 3 days, because he or she didn't know that the email has arrived. And maybe he got a hint that the email has arrived, but on that day, as usual, as me or anybody else would get hundreds of emails every day. So how the hell am I going to know that this particular email is so important that I can pick it up? Of course, you can put some filters in Outlook and or any email client, and doing that, you can really prioritize those ones which are important to you. But still, it gets lost. Once you do this kind of a visualization, the team then understands that I need to really pick it up. Pick it up means what? I need to be ready to receive the baton from the next function. If I have to be ready to receive the baton from the next function, I should be free. I should be expecting that particular baton to come to me. And that is where the task expected due date comes into play. Now, I think you can connect that. What I spoke yesterday comes into play here, because when you are talking about receiving the task, if suppose I was knowing when the earlier person is going to complete their task, it's a coincidence that the two are in sequence, so I'm trying to connect the two. If the function number 2, which is in this case receiving the baton, is knowing when the function number 1 is going to complete their task, that means they know the expected due date of the function number 2, then function number 3 can be prepared on that particular day to receive the task, which means the flow becomes smooth. All of you know that one of the biggest waste is the waiting time. And the waiting time, moment we reduce it, it becomes phenomenal. You can really reduce the total duration of any process, especially in indirect processes. The touch time, which I spoke to you a couple of days back, I'll go back a little in the PowerPoint presentation, which I think started at the first one, I think was on the touch time, which I explained to you. This was the one. The second day it was. If you see in the touch time, any touch time which you look at, there will be a lot of bad multitasking going on. That means a lot of disturbances. Therefore, the touch time actually is very, very less for doing a task. But the actual time allocated there will be quite high, and there will be a lot of buffer also involved in that. So the touch time, knowing the touch time, if you only work on the touch time, you can complete any task much, much faster. And that is the reason why it is important for everybody to be very, very cautious of what is happening in the earlier functions, so that the task can be picked up. And this particular visualization is extremely useful also to identify if there are any queries coming up. Let us say function number 5 here, who is the last in the sequence on this slide, has some problem, and he has to ask function number 1, what is the information that you gave me? I am not able to understand. And that is absolutely not acceptable, isn't it? Function number 1, the first person in the sequence is function number 2, and that particular function should be doing whatever he's doing or she is doing to the satisfaction of all the others in the downstream. Downstream would be what? In this case, function number 3, function number 1, function number 4, and function number 5. So that understanding for the function number 2, that I need to be serving all these 4 in the downstream, is something which is extremely important, which you can visualize using this particular methodology. Doing this tool, you can reduce the lead time, you can reduce the query time, you can reduce the waiting times, you can reduce the errors, you can increase the effectiveness of the whole process, and also make sure that only those who are necessary are involved in the process. That is the objective, and that is the outcome which you can get from swim lane diagram. For indirect processes, only for indirect processes, it's not very useful for direct processes. Indirect processes in a company could be from order to pay, for example, classical thing, whatever that you want to do. Thanks a lot for watching. Now, before I end this time, I promised to you in the beginning, I will now go on to talk about what are we going to do next week, tomorrow. What is my topic for tomorrow? Which case I will change over the slide so that you can see. So tomorrow I'm going to be talking about policy deployment. What is policy deployment? Another tool which has got multiple ways of doing it. I am more familiar, and I've been using what is called as X Matrix quite intensively. I'll talk about that. What is policy deployment, how you can do that, and where can you deploy this tool, where can you use this tool. More useful for bigger organizations, even for smaller companies, it is quite interesting. So with that, I come to the end of today's discussion. Thanks a lot for watching. And for those of you in India, have a nice evening. For those of you outside India, have a great day ahead. And see you tomorrow, more or less the same time. Before I go, I think I need to look at a comment that somebody who has commented here. Arildo, tudo bem? Hi, Arildo, tudo bem? Eu não vi. Muito bem que você está olhando. Por favor, fala. Eu não recebi e-mail seu para fazer mesmo tipo de live session na língua portuguesa. Eu gostaria de fazer, por favor, me informar, aí eu vou preparar e vamos falar em português. Sorry for speaking in Portuguese. That was Arildo, my earlier colleague from Brazil. So, hi, how are you doing? And I said we can do a session in Portuguese. I'll be more than happy to do that. So with that, thanks a lot for watching, and goodbye. See you tomorrow, more or less the same time.